The eye-opening comments made at the White House today. Acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney acknowledging a quid pro quo with Ukraine, acknowledging U.S. military aid was withheld from Ukraine in part to pressure them to investigate the Democrats, saying, get over it. This type of thing happens all the time. That's not what the president has been saying for weeks now, that there was no quid pro quo. And tonight, just before we came on the air, Mulvaney releasing a statement trying to walk back what he said today. ABC's chief White House correspondent Jonathan Karl asked the question that led to it all, and he leads us off.
At the White House today, the president's acting chief of staff admitted something the White House has long denied, that the president cut off military aid to Ukraine in part to pressure them to investigate Democrats.
Did he also mention to me in the past the corruption related to the DNC server? Absolutely. No question about that.
I asked him to clarify.
So the demand for an investigation into the Democrats was part of the reason that he ordered to withhold funding to Ukraine.
The look back to what happened in 2016
investigation of Democrats
was part of the thing that he was worried about in corruption with that nation.
And withholding the funding.
Yeah, which ultimately then flowed.
But to be clear, what you just described is a quid pro quo. It is funding will not flow unless the investigation into the Democratic server happens as well.
We do that all the time with foreign policy. And I have news for everybody. Get over it. There's going to be political influence in foreign policy.
It contradicts what the president has been saying for weeks.
There was no quid pro quo at all.
And it seemed to blindside his allies on Capitol Hill.
Mick Mulvaney said that aid to Ukraine was frozen in part to pressure Ukraine to investigate the Democrats. Do you still think there's nothing to see here?
What did he say?
He said that he admitted that military aid to Ukraine was frozen in part to put pressure on Ukraine to investigate Democrats.
So Mick Mulvaney just said what you said?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know. I'd like to know what that means.
Democrats have been investigating whether there was a quid pro quo.
Things have just gone from very, very bad to much, much worse.
Today, another key witness testified behind closed doors. Gordon Sondland is U.S. ambassador to the EU and a central figure in the president's Ukraine policy. According to written testimony obtained by ABC News, he told lawmakers President Trump directed that matters related to Ukraine go through his personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. Sondland said he and his fellow U.S. diplomats were disappointed, but ultimately decided to do as President Trump directed and talk to Mr. Giuliani. Ambassador Sondland said Giuliani told him if the Ukrainians wanted a meeting with the president, they would have to issue a statement promising to investigate the DNC and Burisma, the company that paid Hunter Biden to serve on its board. My understanding, Sondland told the committee, was that the president directed Mr. Giuliani's participation, that Mr. Giuliani was expressing the concerns of the president. In a previously released text message, the top U.S. official in Ukraine raised concerns with Sondland, writing, quote, I think it's crazy to withhold security assistance for help with a political campaign. Sondland said when he got that text, he called the president. I asked the president, what do you want from Ukraine? The president responded, nothing. There is no quid pro quo. The president repeated, no quid pro quo multiple times. This was a very short call, and I recall the president was in a bad mood. Sondland then relayed that message back to the top U.S. diplomat in Ukraine, texting, I believe you are incorrect about President Trump's intentions. The president has been crystal clear, no quid pro quos of any kind.
Let's get to John Karl. He's live at the White House tonight. And John, Acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney acknowledging to you there that U.S. military aid was withheld from Ukraine in part to pressure Ukraine to investigate the Democrats. It made immediate headlines everywhere, as you're well aware. But just minutes ago tonight, in fact, right before we came on the air, Mulvaney trying to walk that back now?
Mulvaney has put out a statement, David, that accuses, quote, the media of misconstruing what he said. Mulvaney is now saying there was absolutely no quid pro quo between Ukrainian military aid and any investigation into the 2016 election. But, David, that is not what he said in that briefing. In fact, when I followed up and asked him directly if he was saying it was a quid pro quo, not only did he not deny it, he said, as you heard, we do that all the time with foreign policy. Now, Mulvaney's statement came out after a statement from the president's legal team was released, distancing itself from what he said. The legal team said, quote, the president's legal counsel was not involved in Acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney's press briefing. David?
Much more on this to come. John, thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.